My first year of teaching, I completely underestimated how much time it was going to take me to wrap up my school year. Had I known weeks and weeks in advance, I would not have had to have spent the last day and then a few days of my vacation actually checking out of my classroom and getting things in order so that I could start my summer vacation. So today in this episode, we are going to talk about some tasks that you need to accomplish in order to kick off your summer vacation and wrap up your school year. I'm Emily Muccianti. Thanks for being here for the new Teacher Success Network podcast. You may be watching on YouTube or listening to me on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you may listen. But either way, please know that I appreciate you being here and listening. Make sure that you are liking, subscribing, sharing, all the good things so that we can spread the word. All right. So as a new teacher, you are usually focused on just the day-to-day, getting through everything that needs to be accomplished. Everything is new. You have no idea what the expectation is at the end of the school year. And if your school is like mine all were, nobody really has time to kind of prepare you for checkout procedures and tasks that need to be accomplished before that checkout list comes. So that's what we want to focus on today. First of all, it's really important that you take some time to wrap up your school year for a number of reasons, for your students, your parents, but mostly for yourself. There are a number of things that have to be done and that are required by your school sites, and those we will talk about as well. But we want to make sure that we just kind of tie a nice, neat little ribbon on our school year so that we can put that one to bed and start focusing on the next school year ahead. So the first thing that you should be doing, because you're probably anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks out right now from your end of the school year, and this is a good time to start thinking about it. How are you going to wrap up your curriculum? It's really important that you do some backward mapping right now, which means that you are going to look at the end of your calendar and see how many weeks left you have to teach those standards that you are required to teach. I wish I could say you need to fit it all in, but I don't think that's really a realistic expectation. So what you're going to have to do is really focus your end of the year on teaching those essential standards that have to be taught. Because during this time, you're also, if you're older students that you are working with, you're getting ready for the end of the year testing, and you're also prepping them for that. So you need to look and see how much time you have, what standards have you not covered, what really needs to be covered so that you can fit in all of those things. You're probably going to have to adjust your lessons if you've got a lot left to do, but make sure that you are including review activities and things to reinforce those concepts that you know are going to be coming up on testing. You also want to take some time to review your student progress. We know that assessment guides instruction. And so if you're paying attention to where your students are through that assessment data, you can actually plan the end of the year curriculum to be more effective for what you have to cover. There are strategies that you can use in order to get your kids ready for those final days of school, and they don't have to involve your curriculum. That last week, you're probably looking for some fun activities where you can just wrap up what needs to be done. Maybe testing is done at that point, and you want to engage your kids, making sure that they have enjoyed their school year, that you leave them with some final nuggets for the summer. Now, the second task after you handle looking at what you're going to do with your curriculum is cleaning and organizing your classroom. And honestly, about the last 2-3 weeks of school is a good time to start kind of planning what needs to be done. Now, if you are going to be remaining in the classroom that you're in, it's a lot easier to get ready to wrap up that school year. But if you are either moving classrooms at the end of the year or you are changing schools, you're going to want to get some things packed away and organized so that it's an easier rollout at the beginning of the year. So sort those materials between the things that you are going to donate, throw away, and move with you. Teachers are notorious pack rats. We always want to have everything that we are afraid we're never going to have access to, but use good judgment here. You don't need to hang on to everything. Pick and choose what's going to go with you. If you're changing grade levels, you might want to consider donating some of those other specific levels of curriculum or activities that you are doing with a colleague. They would be really grateful for having that, I'm sure. Now, you can even assign your kids some tasks. The kids can clean out their desks. They can clean the tops of their desks. They can do certain tasks around the classroom when you are not actively teaching that can help you get ready for this. But just remember, you want to declutter, organize, get those bins kind of put away so that you are ready to roll out in the beginning of the year. Now, another thing that comes up at the end of your school year, especially during your checkout process, is completing end of the year paperwork. That means making sure that you've got your grades in order, that your grades are submitted, that your comments are on those grades, you've got your attendance records all done. If you have to turn in any lesson plans or you turn in pacing guides, you want to make sure that you have those things in order. So review your deadlines to make sure that you don't miss any submission dates that are required. This just looks bad if you are not making those deadlines. You're a new teacher. You want to continue to impress your administrators and colleagues all the way to the very end. But the tasks need to be handled. A lot of them are legal requirements, things that need to be signed and documented, CUME folders that need to have certain documentation. So you want to make sure you know what is required of you and that you can get a jump on that. Now, because this is a new process for you, all schools are going to have like a checkout list, and they're going to assign a certain employee or contact person for that. So your site secretary, your librarian, your administrator, your tech person. Those people are going to be really excellent resources for you to know what's coming up so that you can get everything ready. Set aside a specific time each day to just do a little bit of this so that it is not so overwhelming at the end. Some things have to wait until the very last day, but not everything. So make sure that you're planning that out and it is a smooth transition for you. Now, let's go back to checkout procedures. With your checkout procedures, talk to your librarian about how they want you to handle textbook and curriculum check-in for your students and for yourselves. Some librarians and some schools collect everything back into the library. They check it all in, they house it in a book room, but not everybody does this. Sometimes they'll come around to your classroom and scan the barcodes so that they know what's in and what's not. And if that is true, if you have to make sure that you've got space in your cabinets for all of your class curriculum, well, you're probably going to have to do some decluttering, but find out in advance so that you can plan for that. And again, it's not some surprise right at the end. Also be aware that anything that you have checked out through your library, resources for yourself, read alouds that you've done, those go on your account, which means if they get lost or they are not turned in, you can actually have to pay for those things. So make sure you're bringing things that were at home that you used and you stuck somewhere. Start digging through anything that you borrowed from the library. Now, there is something that's not an easy task, but it is something to do. You're going to have to think about how you are going to say goodbye to your students. And it's a little bit bittersweet, but you want to plan an activity, maybe some sort of a memory book or a project where it is culminating the year with your students. If you are moving on from this school site, you're going to need to break that news to them. But let me give you a tip. Don't tell them too early. You're going to create a lot of stress and anxiety in your kids. Don't do it. Save it for the last week when everything else is kind of done and you're wrapping up. We don't want to bring that to them at this point in the game. So plan a meaningful goodbye kind of activity, a class party. You can write thank you notes to your parents and to your students. You can have your students write a letter to themselves, their older self, as a way of what they could remind them of what happened in your school year. Lots of things that you can do to kind of bring that school year to an end. And don't forget that you need to reflect on your year. One of the biggest things that has happened over the school year for you, whether you know it or not, is that you have grown as an educator. You have learned so much. You may have learned a great deal of what you need to do more of, and probably some things of what you need to avoid for next year. So take some time to reflect on your school year. What went well? What would you change for next year? Because it's never too soon to start planning for how you would lay out that classroom. And the final task is exactly that. Start planning for next year. Now, some teachers like to wrap up the year and kind of close everything down and start planning right around the end of July or August. It's really up to you, but I like to use that last week of school when everything's getting wrapped up to start thinking ahead. What am I going to keep in my room that I liked? What needs to go? What routines worked well? What techniques did I use through instruction that I'm going to continue with? Start jotting those down. You can even get next year's lesson plan book, start putting your dates in it, start putting some meeting times in it so that you can really have a foundation for jumping into your next school year. So the end of the school year is really a little bittersweet. If you are like I was, you may be counting down, and believe me, there is nothing wrong with that. You deserve your time off. You've worked hard. So if you want to count down and put little red X's on your calendars, do it. Just hide it in your desk so nobody sees it. But then start thinking to the future. What is next year going to look like? And you can dream of anything and you can really make it happen. So congratulations, you are getting toward the end. It's never too soon to start kind of thinking about how you're going to wrap it up so that you can be done and turn your key in on that last day of school. Listen, thanks for listening or watching today. I appreciate you so much. I have a new website now that is available. It is emilymuccianti.com, where you can see all of the things that I do to support new teachers and new reading intervention teachers. But the new tsn.com is also still available, and I would love to invite you to join our membership, the New Teacher Success Network, where we get together twice a month to brainstorm, share, celebrate, guide, and there are also specific workshops related to what new teachers need to do. Love for you to join us there. Thanks for listening. Thank you for what you do. Bye for now.